a husbando, who will make James Bond run for his money, a dummy thick waifu with a very huge heart, and a super cute psychic, who transcends her dimension. Follow their cutesy adventures, like going to the park, seeing penguins and learning to bitch slap. Prison rules, baby. Add Frankie and the dog, to get the Scooby gang. But below the tip of the iceberg, Spy Family has a hippie message: make love, not war. And might be darker than Berserk.
You serious?
Consider this: the author's previous works are horror-themed, such as Ashe of Purgatory, which can get pretty graphic, so he can pull off to make a very dark depth. So clench your butt cheeks, kiddo, because this will be tough shit to process. Spy Family manages bone-chillingly to explore war and its consequences, not despite being wholesome, but it even adds contrast. The truth is, the caster from Fate Zero was right: if something constantly is bad, then over time the human brain gets used to it, becoming desensitized, like ignoring ads or demands to like and sub. But by being dynamic, it is avoided. That is why kind-hearted, bubbly you're-going Thorn Princess mode, having all that bloodlust and cold-heartedness, feels so impactful, even scary. Although the dark stuff usually is between the lines, such as Yor and Twilight losing parents at a young age, and from it stemming trauma and sacrifices, the tragedy of taken away childhoods, and gentle souls like Yor becoming ruthless killers, or heartless experiments with animals and children, which have left survivors traumatized. If you have not experienced something so terrifying, then just take a moment to appreciate it. By doing this, you take one huge step toward happiness, because this exercise trains your mind to find joy, even in the mundane. But sometimes the author's message gets so viscerally direct, such as how students romanticize war, perceive it as something glorious and exciting, even as an excellent tool to achieve desired, that dying in a war is something good. My noob sense is tingling. This is how people before World War I thought, because they did not experience war, and heard tales of older generations, state propaganda and so on. What Twilight's handler thinks about war, is how people after World War I thought, because they experienced personally the horrors, making them perceive a war as something ultimately without winners. Even if your side manages to dominate enemies, the experienced can destroy the mental health of all involved. We can see similar things happening in Fullmetal Alchemist, be it the military, who carried out orders to kill, or violent survivors. No wonder that after World War I, many youngsters felt that the wisdom of past generations was no longer relevant in the post-war world, but also did not know what to do next. That is why these youngsters are called the Lost Generation. And if during this video, you multiple times relieved thought, luckily it has not happened to me, then congratulations on practicing the exercise. Moreover, Twilight Handler's speech packs so much in so little, that it made me speechless, because the author approached the impact on a personal, more relatable level, not just telling cold statistics. Also because the setting is very close to our reality, people cannot distance themselves from it, the same way they could with a more magical setting. For the same reasons, it is so impactful seeing Lloyd's possible death, because the death of one man is a tragedy. The death of millions is a statistic. There is no magical ex machina to bring him back from the dead, or heal so severe injuries. Unlike Dragon Ball Z, where being resurrected is just a regular Monday for Krillin. With all this context, Twilight's empathy toward even the enemy's dogs becomes even more understandable. You dogs never asked to be dragged into our stupid human conflicts. You can see parallels with drafted soldiers, even recruited in very forcible ways. be it at a gunpoint or threatening their families, and the soldiers were often used as meat shields in first rows. Sadly, those who forget their history are condemned to repeat it. Shooters like Call of Duty have a great action spectacle. The feeling of dominating others can feel exhilarating. To use various weapons and drive cars can seem so cool. But media like this, showing war even as something exciting, can somewhat desensitize to violence, war and even the suffering of others, making more to underestimate its seriousness. It might not make a person go ballistic in real life, but could make them much more passive regarding war, especially if war associates with Mo in tanks or becoming battleships. Sadly, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. That is why counterbalance is so needed. And I mean not just knowing on an intellectual level, but also feeling it with heart and having a gut feeling. So you must fight Mo with Mo. To get the point across even more, the author also references tragic events in the USA in 2001 with explosive dogs, a tower and an event, which starts a war. If this is not bone-chilling enough, then know that instead of explosive dogs, brainwashed kids have been used. People might think that it is so cute, that Anya thinks that spies and assassins are cool. Sadly, in reality, Anya is somewhat brainwashed. This is how, in a similar way, kids like Anya have become explosive children. Episode 1 from this perspective becomes a nightmare fuel. Another example is Anya's hate of studying. Just think about it, the hate stems from the abuse scientists did to her, and Lloyd forces her to relive the trauma. Although each coin has two sides, other people could have the opposite problem. They worry too much about things they cannot impact, and it causes health-destroying stress, due to the scene pain being too overwhelming for them. It is needed to accept things which they cannot change, and move on. It can be done by being grounded in the present moment, so I suggest using breathing techniques. Also helps to prevent waifu wars. Others get so irritated that even start violent uprisings, because they feel that it is the only way to change things. This reminds of the scar from Fullmetal Alchemist. The anime showed that this will just feed the cycle, and even if this approach wins some battles, it will lose the war. So a much better solution is a much more peaceful way to solve the underlying cause, not violently fight with the consequences. Others become passive, because it feels that nothing will make a difference. So why bother? Life is so tricky, because extremes are never good, and to have a balance requires constant introspection and vigilance, such as to care enough to help others, if it is in own means, but not so much that it overwhelms, therefore avoiding gradually destroying a person. Luckily, you do not need to do this alone. Spy Family excellently shows that people can come together to make a difference by having each other's back. This series can be like an oasis, where the wholesomeness lets you forget about your problems, but also puts in perspective what you have, and lets really appreciate it, by providing great contrast. Hope you now see why dark content can help to see the world as a much brighter place. So no slacking off with exercises. And if you wish to form great habits like these even easier, then this video should help you.